This is my first ride of my 2016 WR250R. I purchased it about a week ago. I've been doing some maintenance on it, repairing a few things that it needed. But the idea with this bike is to make it a lightweight adventure bike to do BDRs and you know, longer trips. I have a WR250F, the enduro bike, and it's surprising how different this bike feels. First of all, it's a lot softer in general, which is good for what I want this bike for. The suspension is softer, the seat is much softer and comfortable. The seat is wider, doesn't have sharp corners at the edges, so I mean, you can tell you can sit on this seat a lot longer. And also, as I was doing maintenance and cleaning it up, I noticed that it has a lot of elements for sound reduction and vibration reduction. The gear in the front has a rubber damper to reduce vibration, I imagine. And the rear hub has some kind of rubber damper on it as well. It doesn't look like a cush drive, but it's got some kind of rubber elements to reduce vibration. All the plastics, when you take the plastics off, you know, behind most of the plastics you see foam or rubberized sound deadening and heat rejection or reflection material. So there was a lot more attention put on making the bike comfortable, quiet, cool. I think the idle is a little bit high. I haven't adjusted that yet, but the bike is heavier, which about 50 pounds heavier than the enduro bike, which is actually good for highway and long distance. I think it makes the bike feel a little bit more stable on the road and quieter, less affected by wind. What else have I noticed? Well, yeah, having all the nice factory lighting without having to do aftermarket wiring is nice. And this bike does have aftermarket exhaust and a fuel tuner, so it feels pretty peppy to me. I mean, you know, I thought I was gonna feel like I was sorely lacking power compared to the WR250F, which has about 38 horsepower with the GYTR ECU and tuning I have on it. This bike, looking at dyno charge with the mods it has, I think it might, you know, have something like 31 horsepower. So pretty good, you know, 3 or 4 horsepower above stock is what people seem to get with the mods it has on it. But we'll see how it feels when I hit the dirt. When I purchased it, I took it on like 20 or 30 yards of dirt and a little rough section, some sand, just so I could feel that the suspension action was good, and yeah, it felt fine. You know, I actually wouldn't be surprised if this bike feels close enough to the enduro bike that I don't use the enduro bike that much anymore, and then I end up selling the enduro bike and just keeping the R. But we'll see how it handles rocks and some of the more technical single tracks that we go on. But the problem is, a lot of the riders I do enduro riding with you know, have faster bikes and they keep a faster pace, and instead of leading or guiding rides, I'm going to be the back of the pack. Or yeah, so it's kind of important to have similar bikes and you know, have a similar mentality of what kind of ride you want to do. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna keep the enduro bike and the dual sport for now. Very nice mirrors. There's no vibration at all through the mirrors, but I'm thinking these are not these kind of look like Kawasaki mirrors. They might not be the original mirrors, because I think most of the pictures I've seen show round mirrors. But either way, you can tell the vibration is well damped because I'm not getting much vibration through the mirrors at all. So yeah, even though the R looks very similar to the F aesthetically, it's quite a different chassis. I mean, this one has a combination of aluminum and steel. It's amazing how much weight this bike can handle. It's rated to for a total of like 408 pounds. So that's like two passengers plus 100 what was that? 2 passengers plus 100 pounds of luggage. You know, it's kind of what this bike can handle, which is quite a bit. And when I removed the plastics to repair the rear tail light, you can see that the rear subframe is pretty robust. You know, has a lot of cross pieces and welds and members to support the weight, and it feels very rigid. You know, that's a big part of what adds 50 pounds to this bike versus the F. You know, the more sturdy frame and all the sound deadening, of course all the street legal elements, the lighting. But yeah, this bike feels like it would be a lot of fun just for commuting even. I think the speedometer reads high, even stock. It does have stock gearing. So I'm gonna set up my my GPS on my phone to see what top speed I see there versus what I'm seeing on the speedometer here. Yeah, so on the street this bike feels pretty good. It's comfortable, low vibration. Again, this is my first ride, so still getting a feel for it, but I like it for what I'm thinking of doing. Again, lightweight adventure touring, BDRs, things like that. And I did get a chance to install the Tusk luggage this morning, and it's solid. I mean, you can almost feel like you can almost pick up the entire bike with it. So it's got 2 mounting points here to the rear rack, then down here to the foot pegs, I mean to the passenger pegs, or the shields rather, here and here. And yeah, I don't feel it moving at all. I just put some lightweight material here to kind of keep their shape, get a feel for any interference. I do have the rear small duffel bag, but I didn't attach that today. I just wanted to get a feel for the mounting and the bottom section first. But it's super solid. I mean, you can move the entire bike with any part of the luggage. This solid plastic covered with nylon base is really nice. So yeah, we'll see how it does in the dirt a little bit later. These Tusk dual sport tires actually feel pretty good on this bike. I didn't feel any wobble at an indicated 71 mile an hour. On my XR650L I had quite a bit of wobbling issues. So it's already time, but everybody's late. Well, 10:28, still 2 minutes left. See if anybody shows up on time. Alright, so we're gonna hit dirt here. See how the bike feels. The sand is pretty loose here in this first part. The Tusk dual sports are decent tires, but they're not a full enduro type knobbies, so but they're feeling pretty good. Yeah, but the suspension is obviously softer than on the F, but it's handling these whoops pretty good at a lower pace than I would on the F for sure. Now I've experienced riding through these whoops on an XR650L, which is a heavier bike, so I knew this bike would do pretty well. Whoa, Yeah, it does feel like I'm bottoming out the suspension on some of these whoops, but when it comes to a stop, or when I bottom out the suspension, it's not a harsh bottoming. It's not like a metal clanking, which is common with Yamaha suspension. It's for KYB suspension, it's got a really good feel when it does bottom. It's not harsh. I didn't know that was going to be the case with the dual sport version of this bike. But yeah, no, it's feeling pretty good. See how it feels if I sit through these whoops. Better wait for the other guys. The DR650 is probably struggling a little bit in the sand with the stock Deathwing tires it has on there. Oh man, hope I didn't get him into something where he's a little bit in over his head. Yeah, I'm liking this bike. It does feel a bit underpowered through that deep sand and whoops. It also kind of feels like third gear is too low and fourth is too high. Yeah, so the bike is feeling pretty good even on street tire pressures. It's kind of loose sand here, some curves, some whoops. I left the tires at street tire pressure, which is 18 front, 25 rear. Normally I'd be riding this on my enduro bike with tire pressures set at about, I don't know, 11 to 13. Also, these knobs are not as aggressive, but no, this is the advantage of a lightweight bike. You can get away with a lot, right? It's harder to break traction in general, and harder to break traction, and braking is easier, changing direction is easier. The power is very easy to control on this bike, very smooth. Yeah, so this bike is going to be great for the dirt portions of the BDRs, which most of the BDRs are. I think it was definitely a good choice. So on the highway, I like not having a fairing because the air is cleaner. But when I was over 60 miles an hour, you know, I did feel quite a bit of pressure on my chest. Yeah, the chassis on this bike is great. And sliding sideways through those turns, it feels awesome. Stable, flickable, lightweight. Much better than my XR650L for sure through this stuff. And the XR650L had some wobble with the Tusk dual sports in the front, so I'm thinking that was due to suspension rigidity. The forks on the XR kind of wobbly, kind of noodly compared to these fatter upside down forks. Oh, this is where we decide. I'd like to have a tachometer on this bike, that way I can tell how close I am to redline. It does like to rev, but I guess I'll look at adding a digital tach on it. This madman in front of me is on an XR650 and almost has no whoa. I took a bad line through that. Almost has no knobs on the front tire. Still maintaining a and we also have an old two-stroke Yamaha, like 40-year-old bike, and a WR250R I, and then a DR650 behind us is a gentleman with a slightly less dirt experience than we have, but he's also on those stock Deathwing tires, so expect him to do better as he practices and maybe upgrades his tires.
Got it. Ready.
Let's catch up to that KLR. Need more curves to catch up to him. There we go. Ah, he slowed down too much. He's a maniac. Maniac. Oh, oh man, those are hard wood. This rocky, choppy stuff, the suspension feels great. These are some agile cows, they can run. Indicated 82, but probably going quite a bit slower. 83, 85. Full tuck. Indicated 90, 91, 92. Wide open in 6th gear. They do some wind turbine manufacturing here, so you always see the semis loaded with the huge blades.